Welcome to the Napeville Moms Network. My name is Dr. Kathy Suber, and I am honored to serve as our show's host alongside of my friends Erica, Sarita, and Patty. Last month, we talked helicopter parenting and mom tribes. This month, we feel brave enough to tackle some of the mommy wars. Stay at home versus working outside of the home, nursing versus bottle feeding, childbirth choices, sleeping arrangements, discipline methods, etc. Speaking of being brave, who wants to start this conversation off?
By saying that something's a war, you're implying that there's two sides, and both sides want to be right. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to motherhood and parenting, that's just not the case. Mm-hmm. There is a right for an individual within a family with a child, because each child in a certain place and time and circumstance. So, do they exist? Yeah, I think we'd be naive to say that they didn't. We're in a time where everything is amplified too, and we're getting judgments and opinions not only in person, from neighbor Sally down the street, but also on a screen from someone that we've never even met. So I think sometimes the wars are more internal than they are external. I think that's
such a good point.
If I'm making a choice, let's say when Natalie was really, really little, I supplemented pretty early on along with nursing. And I found myself meeting someone and vomiting it. I'm doing this because I'm not making enough, and this, and I had mastitis, and this poor unsuspecting person doesn't care what I'm doing. My baby's healthy, my baby's thriving, my baby's growing. That's all that matters. But you have, again, going back a little bit to that mommy guilt, so you feel like it's a war that becomes amplified, when I think 90% of it might just be your own issue. Yeah.
Right. I agree with that. And I think you mentioned we see it on the screen. Social media, I think, has just made us more aware, or maybe, of what other people are doing. And we always have, or at least I always have, this need to want to be included. I'm not doing that right, and I want to be in that group, and they're doing that, so I should be doing that. And I did the same thing with the justification, but it was for work. When I worked outside the home, and there were moments when I would sit down with friends who stayed at home, and I would immediately go into these long excuses about why I was working outside the home. And the truth was, I liked working outside the home, and it was something that even if I didn't have to supplement my income, I would have wanted to do. And for whatever reason, I started feeling really guilty about that. But it was me. It wasn't the people I was talking to. It wasn't they weren't making me feel bad. I was making myself feel bad. Right. So I think, how do we get over that part? How do we move making ourselves feel good about whatever decision we make in parenting?
Right. And I think, sometimes you don't know the full story behind a decision or a parenting style that another parent might have. I remember with my daughter, when she was young, I was a working mom. So at the time, we were part of a growth group at church, and we would meet on Fridays. And, I struggled because I was away from her all week. I didn't want to leave her, and she had a lot of health issues. So we couldn't leave her with any sitter or anyone we could. It had to be someone who knew all her history. But sometimes people pass the judgment. They don't understand. You're all the time with your child. You need time on your own. So I think sometimes you just don't know the whole story. And you just have to keep in mind that, that every parent is doing their best and might not have all the answers, but you try to do the best you can. And you know your family and what your needs are.
Ultimately, you need to have a happy child or children and a happy mom. And that happy mom is sometimes a little bit more important. They say on an airplane, you take care of yourself, you put that oxygen mask on, and then you put it on your child. And there's so much truth. You can carry that throughout so many different circumstances. And if the mom is co-sleeping, because that is the only way that anyone is going to get sleep in the house, then that produces a child who is well rested, and a mom who's well rested. And if you're all of these different things, and as far as the stay at home and working as well, I mean, some moms are at their best when they are pouring themselves into work, and then they are completely present when they are there with their children, and that is being the best version of their own motherhood. And it's so different, and we really need to stop. I think, out of 10, I think 9 are really supportive. There's always that one. That one, though. I get that. That I definitely feel some judgment from, and that's okay. You just gotta put it on them.
And especially with social media, where people are transparent about what they're going through, just being cognizant and respectful.
Yes.
In passing the quick judgment on someone's situation. I think we just need to be more supportive and empathetic of each other.
Yep. I know when I went to give birth, I was trying to do a natural childbirth. As a chiropractor, I end up seeing a lot of moms that have pain at the source of the epidural site, which is sometimes one of the side effects. So I think I got scared into it a little bit more. And I ended up, with my first birth, I remember prepping for it and thinking about where I'd be feeling the pain and trying to make myself ready for this experience that I wanted to have, and picturing all the pain, just kind of abdomen, lower area. Well, I went into giving birth and I started going through, and I had back labor, and I was like, it was like a tornado going off in my body. I was so shocked in that moment how out of control I felt, and how like my whole body felt like it was taken over. And I remember like up on the bed, on my knees, rocking back and forth, trying to very logically come up with the one statement that would let me go home. And I was like, all right, if I say this exact word, they're gonna shut this off for me, and then I'll go home and I will promise to come back tomorrow. So anyway, I really, in my mind, I was very logical about this, and I was gonna come up with that one statement. And I ended up being able to do it naturally. I thought I was gonna break in half. So when I have patients come in and go, oh my gosh, I ended up having to have a C-section, or I wanted to do natural, but I ended up having having the epidural, I'm like, listen, I get it.
Right.
It's a very different and unique process for each woman. I've talked to women where like, I didn't really hurt until I was actually giving birth.
Right.
Well, lucky you, that's awesome.
Right.
Like, don't tell anyone that.
I think it comes down to confidence, and we have to have more confidence as moms in the decisions that we make. I mean, we're all, as we've said a million times, we're doing the best we can, but we're presented with a issue. We've got a couple different choices. We do the research, we have conversations, we go with our gut, and we make a decision. And once that decision's made, we need to just be confident in it, and not the but, right? That conjunction. I wanted to, but just stop there. That's great. Move on, and let's just embrace what's happening now. Look at this beautiful child, and let's take care of your back while we're at it. Right.
Yeah, because it's interesting. Sometimes you feel like you're reliving high school all over again. In terms of the different personalities of moms, some who are very vocal and verbal, and how they feel, or passing judgment. But I think we have to remember our kids are watching us. Do you know what I mean? So we need to be good role models for them in terms of how we are approaching and passing on judgment on each other.
Oh,
absolutely.
And I think that's exactly it. It's us paying attention to how we react to other people. It is knowing that there's a backstory behind every decision we make as parents, and everyone is trying to do their best. I know when I first started working from home, and I was working full-time from home, and I would have friends that would ask me to do things for them at their house, like, oh, hey, you're home. Can you go over and let my dog out? Or can you go over? And it was like, but I'm working too. And so you had this moment of, but wait a second, you're not appreciating what I'm doing. But at the same time, and then I would do it. Like I would stop, be like, okay, well, I gotta go let somebody's dog out, or I gotta go get somebody's, I go, wait a minute. No, and the thing is, again, it was me that was creating this. They didn't realize that they weren't trying to be disrespectful or to discount the fact that I worked from home. They were just thinking of their own stuff going on. And when I actually had a conversation about how, I a lot of times have meetings during the day, they're like, oh my gosh, I am so sorry that I just assume because you're home, and I wasn't even thinking about that.
Right.
So we have to be more conscious about how we treat other moms and how we respect what their decisions are on Facebook and on Twitter and all those wonderful social media channels that we have that exasperates every issue that we have.
And to what you were saying, a lot of times it's misunderstanding and miscommunication, and it helps to just set things straight, or in your case, as other moms realize that, you're working from home. So sometimes I think we just need to take that initiative and just clear the air.
And set boundaries as well, When I had my kids, one of the nice things is I could work 3.5 days a week and then stay home with them. And my husband at the time, we owned the practice together, so we had a nanny that came to the house 3 days a week, which was awesome. And I would wake up and I'd be like, what day is it? Do I stay home or do I'm like, oh, I get to go to work. And it wasn't that I didn't love my children. It was that I personally found staying home with little babies way harder than being a role as a doctor. I just found it way harder. There are some of my friends that the thought of going back to work has them in tears all day long because they cannot imagine not being home with their babies, right? Two different styles of mom, not one being more right or wrong, but why on earth does there need to be any type of battle about that? And I think it goes back to Erica, what you were saying about confidence, right? I confidently love my career and love my children, and I'm a better mom if I can have my career and be fulfilled in that area of my life, and then I'm just filled up more to give more to my kids.
And sometimes that decision isn't necessarily the decision you'd want to make. So there are, if your friend is crying and they can't bear to be away, but they do have to go to work. And I think that's sometimes where the defense comes in, because I have to go to work. We need our health insurance. But I'm really sad about that, so I'm just going to project that onto moms who are at home because I'm upset about it. And so we all make decisions, not necessarily decisions we want to make, but ones that make the most sense. I was a teacher in a low-paying district in the city of Chicago. And you crunch the numbers and you think, okay, is this take-home worth it for our family? In some families, yes, it is.
Sure.
For our family at that time 6 years ago, it wasn't. I wasn't thrilled about bringing home $15,000 when all was said and done. So it really, really differs. Time, place, situation, family. And we have got to be more supportive of everyone.
Well, I couldn't agree more. It's a tough topic, At the end of the day, we are all so different. It seems best if we respect other moms' ways of being a mom. We'll be right back with more of the Naperville Moms Network. Stay tuned. 3 out of 4, I think.